You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
The R.T.M will hold a Zoom meeting on Wednesday, September 9th, 2020 at 7 p.m. to consider and act upon the following matters. Review of the remote. Item number 1 is a review of the remote meetings requirements and roll call. Just a reminder to everybody that when you speak, you have to state your full name every time you speak. And Representative Brockett, we're going to do the procedures on the voting this time, just like we did last time. Anybody who has against the motion and the abstentions, instead of going through the whole roll call, with the exception of the items that require a roll call vote, which is the bonding issues, and not to have any problem with the bond council, those will require a full roll call vote.
Yeah, Dennis, this is Representative Brockett. I'm okay with that. And I think Representative Ingraham, based on our conversation, is okay with that.
I am.
Okay, item number 2, approve the minutes of the previous meetings.
I'll
Is
make
there
the
a
motion that
motion?
we approve. I'll make a motion. This is Representative Ingraham. I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Representative Ricchio will second.
Okay, Representative Flanagan here, there's a motion and it's been seconded to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Is there any
Point of order
discussion?
by Representative Sullivan. Don't we have to do a roll call for attendance before we do anything else?
You're absolutely right. I stand corrected on that. Very good, Representative Sullivan.
Thank you.
Before we move to that, I read it very fastly on here, but will the clerk please read the roll call, please?
Good evening. This is Representative Leach. I will do the roll call now. Representative Edelman. Can you hear me?
I'm so sorry. Yes, Representative Edelman is present.
Okay, thanks. Representative Alphone.
Representative Alphone, present.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson, present.
Representative Austin.
Representative Austin, present.
Representative Black.
Representative Black, present.
Representative Brockett.
Representative Brockett, present.
Representative Conklin.
Representative Conklin is present.
Representative Everson.
Representative Everson, present.
Representative Erlanger.
Representative Erlanger, present.
Representative Flanagan.
Representative Flanagan is here.
Representative Greenberg.
Representative Greenberg, present.
Representative Haken.
Representative Haken is present.
Representative Healy.
Representative Healy is present.
Representative Henschel.
Representative Henschel, present.
Representative Hines.
Representative Hines is present.
Representative Ingraham.
Representative Ingraham is present.
Representative Jackson.
Representative Jackson is present.
Representative Kelly. Did anyone see Representative Kelly on here?
Don't see him.
Okay, Representative Leach, present. Representative Preet.
Representative Freed is present.
Representative Ricchio.
Representative Ricchio is present.
Representative Sember.
Representative Sember is present.
Representative Sires.
Representative Sires, present.
Representative Sumro.
Representative Sumro is here.
Representative Stepanik,
Representative Stepanik will be absent.
thank you.
I wouldn't really look at the percentages at the moment because of, those are based on a year.
Representative Sullivan,
Representative Sullivan, I'm present.
Representative Torelli,
All of those,
Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli, present.
thank you. Representative Toohill,
Representative Frank Toohill is present.
Representative Wells,
Representative Wells is present. I'm unmuted, but present.
thank you. I think I saw First Selectman Cosgrove here somewhere. Is that true?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunbar and Town Clerk
Present.
Turpin.
And Selectwoman Higgins is here as well.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's it.
Okay, we have a quorum, I'm assuming. Dennis Flanagan here.
Yes.
Okay, before we move on to item 2, I have some committee changes that I would like to announce. Representative Toohill will be going to Administrative Services Committee. Representative Greenberg will be going to the Education Committee. Representative Preet will be the Education Chair. And Representative Brockett will go to Public Services to fill the vacancy right by Representative Lombard. Okay. Item number 2, approval of the minutes of the previous meetings. I believe
Representative Ingraham, I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Representative Ricchio seconds.
Okay, any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes of the previous meetings? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Item number 3, receptions of communications, reports of committees, and citizens petitions. I do have a letter here from Chairman of the Board of Finance, Joe Mooney, addressed to Dennis Flanagan, moderator. At the meeting of the Board of Finance held on August 31st, 2020, the following resolution was adopted. Resolved that the resolution entitled Resolution Appropriating $2,895,000 for the renovation and expansion of the Branford Animal Shelter and authorizing the issuance of $2,895,000 bonds of the town of Branford to meet a said appropriation, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. It is hereby adopted and recommended for approval to the representative town meeting. I do have a letter here from Mr. Cook in light, dear Branford R.T.M. In light of recent actions undertaken by the Branford Housing Authority, the continuing concerns of citizens regarding possible fraud, corruption, and embezzlement in the management of Parkside Village complex, and the refusal of the current administration to investigate these concerns appropriately, the RTM is asked to immediately initiate a full and independent forensic audit to this matter. Because of the nature of these circumstances and the unanswered questions around them, it is emphasized that a full forensic audit and not a routine financial audit be performed. This will be incorporated with the item on the call that under the Parkside Village item, the committee will address that.
that's fair.
Okay, I do have a letter, let's see here now, let me see what I got here. This one's dated September 6, 2020, addressed to the Branford RTM. Please be advised that a number of Branford boards and commissions are utilizing Zoom technology to censor citizens' comments and in some cases remove citizens from online town meetings. These include the Board of Selectmen, Planning and Zoning Commission, Economic Development Commission, Clean Energy Commission, and the Branford Housing Authority. And although other town bodies may also be engaging in such practices, in adherence to the Governor's Executive Order 7B and provisions of the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, it is asked that the Branford R.T.M. issue a policy and townwide order that prohibits citizens from being muted by the means of the town meetings. I will take that under consideration and report back on that. Then we have another letter dated.
Mr. Moderator, can I make a comment on that quickly?
Go ahead. Mr. Cook?
I would just ask all RTM members to watch the last selectmen's meeting.
Wayne, it's Lisa Arpin. Please state your name. Thank you.
Sorry, my name is Wayne Cook. I would just ask all the RTM members, and actually the whole community, to watch the last selectmen's meeting and see what the first selectman did in terms of allowing citizens to participate. You know, he did a hatchet job on the whole thing. I wanted to speak at the end. He adjourned the meeting. I called up the next day and asked Trista, you know, what was going on. And she said, well, he wanted to do it himself. Well, why did he want to do it himself? So he could censor citizens, keep them from participating. And to me, that's about as bad as you get in local government. I'd like to hear what he has to say about that, because why don't you all watch and see what that meeting looked like?
Okay, I do have another letter dated September 6th, 2020 from Mr. Cook, addressed to the Branford R.T.M. At a recent selectmen's meeting, both citizens and public officials alike raised certain concerns about the one-sided Clean Energy Committee efforts to hold only its views and agenda represented in a townwide energy plan with no public input whatsoever. As was clear from the meeting, until such objections were raised, it was both the committee's and the first selectman's intent to have the bias plan pushed through and adopted with no committee involvement or discussion. In light of this, Branford citizens and RTM members are asked to take an active role in monitoring how the Clean Energy Committee intends to introduce what is now more correctly called the first draft of a screwed energy plan to the committee for public consideration and input. That's all I have under communications and correspondence. Does the clerk have anything?
No, I don't have anything additional.
Okay, moving on. Item 4, to consider if it appropriate, create a blight ordinance for the town of Branford. Representative Black. Representative Black.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rules and ordinances did not meet, so through you, I'd ask that items number 4 and items number 5 be re-referred. And I'll put that in the form of a motion for those 2 items and look for a second.
This is Representative Sullivan. I'll second that.
Okay, this is Representative Flanagan. There's a motion on the floor, and it's been seconded to re-refer both items 4 and 5. Is there anyone that doesn't approve this motion? Is there any abstentions? Hearing none, we will refer 4 and 5. Moving to item 6, to consider direct finance for the following fiscal 2021 budget transfer from bond payments $282,423 to interpayments general purpose $45,245 to interest payments schools $56,385 to interest payments for $108,790 for a total of $282,420, and from principal payments CWF $1,500,000 to transfer out fund 720 $1,500,000, and to increase operating transfer by $1,500,000 and decrease bond proceeds by $1,500,000. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Apologies for the bad reception. Is everybody hearing me okay? Okay. I'd ask that we consider this item number 6 along with item number 8, which is a amendment to bond resolution here. These 2 items are related and one really relies on the other here. Our committee did hear both these items and approved them 5-0. But first, I'd like to put a motion on the floor to waive the reading of the bond resolution. It's on the website. It should have been distributed to you. There's a correction to it. It's been approved by bond counsel, and that's what's on the town website. So I'll put forth a motion to waive the reading of the bond resolution amendment and look for a second.
This is Representative Ingraham. I'll make the second. Go ahead.
This is Representative Flanagan. There's been a motion on the floor and seconded to waive the reading of the reading of the bond resolution. Is there anyone against the reading of the bond resolution? Is there any abstentions? Okay, the motion to waive the reading of the bond resolution passes. All right, Representative Flanagan to Representative Black, go ahead, continue.
Excuse me 1 second. This is Representative Leach. I didn't catch who seconded that.
I believe it was Representative Sullivan. Is that correct?
It was Representative Ingraham.
Thank you.
No, you made the motion, but I believe the second was Representative Sullivan, no?
No, Representative Black made the motion.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Representative Black, I stand corrected, and seconded by Representative Ingraham. Representative Flanagan, go ahead, continue, Representative Black.
Okay, if we look at our agenda on item number 6, it's really kind of two parts, but first is whenever we make our budget, we're not quite sure how the interest is going to be allocated between the town bonds or general purpose bonds, schools and sewer. So the first part here is taking $282,000 out of those, out of general bond payments interest and allocating it between general purpose schools and sewers. The second part of this item is principal payments for a clean water fund. We paid off our clean water fund bonds. We will have savings from that payoff and refunding of $1.5 million. So rather than go out and bond for the remainder that's due for the library, we will pay cash for that, $1.5 million, and that's what the bond resolution is about as well. There's a letter that we all went out to us and is on the town website from the finance director explaining that. Also not in that letter, because the $1.5 million would have been a pretty big chunk of the refunding. These bonds would not have been tax exempt. It would be viewed as private purpose, since the Blackstone is not a government agency, but a nonprofit agency. So we wouldn't get the great rate that we got on our refunding if we included this $1.5 million in the refunding bonds. So again, these passed Ways and Means 5-0. So I put that in the form of a motion. And this being a bonding issue, we will need a full roll call vote.
Okay, there's a motion to approve this item. Is there any discussion from the members of the RTM?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Ingraham.
Yes.
Representative Ingraham, I want to make sure that everyone's clear that that Representative Black merged item 6 and item 8 that we're voting on, the whole thing as one package, just like you did in your call or your subcommittee meetings. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from members of the RTM? Any comments from the members of the public? Okay, as we stated before, because the bonding issue involved in this will, the clerk will read the roll call. This will be a roll call vote. Voting yes is for in favor, voting no is against.
This is Donna Leach, clerk. So just to be clear, we're voting on items 6 and 8 right now?
Correct. 6 falls into item 8. So if this is approved, this will take care of item 6 and 8.
Thank you. Okay, Representative Edelman.
Representative Edelman, yes.
Representative Valcone.
Representative Alphone, yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson, yes.
Representative Austin,
Representative Austin, yes.
Representative Black,
Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett, yes.
Representative Conklin,
Representative Conklin, yes.
Representative Everson,
Representative Everson, yes.
Representative Erlanger,
Representative Erlanger, yes.
Representative Greenberg,
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken,
Representative Haken, yes.
Representative Healy,
Representative Healy, yes.
Representative Henschel,
Representative Henschel, yes.
Representative Hines,
Representative Hines, yes.
Representative Ingraham,
Representative Ingraham, yes.
Representative Jackson,
Representative Jackson, yes.
Representative Kelly. Oh, sorry, she's absent. Okay. Representative Leach, yes. Representative Preet,
Representative Preet, yes.
Representative Ricchio,
Representative Ricchio, yes.
Representative Sember,
Sorry, Representative Sember, yes.
thank you. Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, yes.
Representative Sumro,
Representative Sumro, yes.
Representative Sullivan,
Representative Sullivan votes yes.
Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli votes yes.
Representative Toohill,
Yes, Representative Hill votes yes.
and Representative Wells.
Representative Wells votes yes also.
Thank you. It was unanimous.
Okay, unanimous vote. Votes items 6 and 8 are
Mr.
approved.
Moderator, excuse me, I'm sorry. This is Town Clerk Arpin.
Representative Arpin. Town Clerk
sorry.
Arpin, go ahead.
Although it was unanimous, I do believe we missed a step to approve the, or to waive the reading of the full resolution. Thank you.
Representative Flanagan, I thought that's what Peter Black did before. Representative Black. Didn't we make a motion to waive the reading of the full resolution?
I don't think so.
That's correct. We
Yeah,
made
that's correct, please.
that motion, and this Representative Black, I made that motion. It was seconded by Representative Ingraham. We did not take a roll call vote on the waiving. You'd asked if there was any objection, so it was passed by unanimous consent. If anybody think we need a roll call vote on that, we can do it.
Well, not on the waiving. I believe we're okay with that. Representative Flanagan here.
A
Town
representative.
Clerk Arpin, thank you. I'm fine with that.
Okay, Representative Flanagan here. Moving on to item 7, letters and petitions. R&O, letter approval of $150K in legal fees not heard completely. A letter request to review the Code of Ethics. A letter of examination of the POCD process. A letter of examination of the state statute 830G and its uses in Branford. Petition and examination of the possible improprieties incurring during Costco inland wetlands application and independent peer review, along with the examination of the investigation into the matter proposed by the first selectman. Petition and examination of the past and present living conditions at Parkside Housing Complex, its oversight by the Branford Housing Authority. That's all for rules and ordinance. Public services, a letter examination of the removal of signs and roadways. Ways and means, a letter examination of the town's undesignated fund. A letter request to create a new R.T.M. committee to review special funds assigned by the leadership caucus. Administrative services, petition to consider the possibilities of public health hazards emanating from the demolition debris piles at the former Atlantic Wire site. Petition and examination of the role of the town of Branford in the removal of the earth berm from the Branford Land Trust at Jarvis Creek and the potential safety hazards from the resulting flooding of Route 146. Petition and examination of the 77-acre Tabor property in its current use and development master plan. Okay.
Mr.
Representative
Moderator, this is
Flanagan here,
Representative
Representative
Ingraham.
Ingraham.
This is Representative Ingraham. I make the motion that we re-refer all items per the request of the letter writers and petitioners to move the items to our October call.
Representative Edelman, second.
Motion on the floor to second and seconded by Representative Edelman. This is Representative Flanagan to refer the following items that I just read off to the various subcommittees that will hold meetings for between now and our next October R.T.M. meeting.
Couple comments, please.
Mr. Cook, go right ahead.
Yeah, a couple things. I circulated a handout through the town clerk. I don't know if you received it, with a couple observations. One is that the letters here, which are pretty much my letters, are not really phrased correctly. So, you know, the handout, I think, does a better job of explaining what those items are. And if you could follow the handout language, I'd appreciate that. And I think, you know, for example, approval of $150,000 for legal fees, that was an example. The letter asked for a complete examination of how the R.T.M. examines all legal fees. So, I mean, that's a distinction there. You know, and there was a few of those, like the POCD process. Well, that was part of the letter, but there are other things too. So if you can look at the handout that I gave the town clerk, I'd appreciate it. So I'm of the understanding that, and I'm speaking on behalf of all the petitioners, including myself, that all the meetings will be held in October, because I know that R&O has one coming up, but we're not going to be ready for that one. So all the meetings, subcommittees will be in October. And then all will be on Zoom, apparently. And we asked that, you know, the Zoom be handled fairly. That's all we're asking, letting people comment without muting them. And that also that the meetings will be recorded and available on the cloud to the public. And I guess that's about it. But, oh, the other thing was, you know, I've done petitions in the past, and I'm sure the moderator will remember that they all had an individual entry for themselves. And I was wondering why these were all grouped together, because it kind of diminishes the importance of each one. I mean, if a citizen goes out and gets 60 or 50 or 60 signatures, I think they should be able to stand on their own with what that issue is. So if that could be a consideration on the agenda, to have all these items, again, stand on their own and be listed individually. The other thing is, and I think I can do this, back on the letter part of this, if I could speak to that for a minute. There was one letter I submitted that you did not read, and it was regarding Rule 73-3, which I can bring up during the animal shelter consideration, but I wanted the R.T.M. to be familiar with that, because I don't know if a lot of the members are, and I think that's extremely important when it comes to certain phases of the animal shelter. And then the other thing, just quickly, and I'm going to speak to this because this is part of my letters too. You know, quite frankly, folks, that energy thing has got to be looked at. Now, if you're going to force us into another citizen's petition, we will do it. But, you know, citizens complain to the Board of Selectmen that this is very much within the R.T.M. jurisdiction and purview. So why no one takes an interest in this and is just going to grant a carte blanche energy plan from a committee that's entirely skewed. You know, I don't understand that. I really don't. I think you guys have to, you know, sit up, put your hands on the wheel and take control of this town, because you're not doing it. Sorry, but you're not doing it. And this is a very basic thing, very important thing. It's going to determine energy policy in this town going forward. And what? Nobody cares? You're just going to leave it up to the Board of Selectmen? You gotta be kidding me.
Okay, if no further discussion, there's been a motion on the floor and it's been seconded to re-refer item 7. Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? Okay, item 7 is re-referred. Moving on to item 9, to consider and if appropriate, approve a request from the Human Services Director for the following budget transfer from other purchase services, $44,160 to seasonal part-time, $44,160. Representative Flanagan here, Representative Alphone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Human Services Department requires any contractual employee for the Human Services Department to meet specific IRS benchmarks as a condition to continue as a contractor employment status. The candidate to fill the medical director position does not meet this criteria and therefore is required to be hired as a part-time employee as part of the town. The requested transfer will allow the position to be filled as a seasonal part-time employee instead of a 1099 contractor. This was heard in committee and was approved unanimously. And put that forward to the whole body.
Motion, now Representative Flanagan, here, the motion on the floor to approve this transfer. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion from members of the RTM? Any discussion from the public? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? This item passes. Moving on to item 10. Representative Flanagan here again. To consider and if appropriate, approve request from the fire chief for the following closeout budget transfers for fiscal 2020. From regular wages and salaries, $44,000. From sick, $32,932. To overtime, $76,932. From employment testing, $9,804. To educational incentive, $9,804. To and from holiday, $17,268. To accumulated sick pay, $17,268. From stipends, $7,599. To medical supplies, $7,598. From volunteer stipend, $1,998. To furniture and fixtures, $1,998. From replace sick, $27,823. To hydrants and mains, $27,823. And from public events, $14,144. To port security grant cost share, $14,155. Representative Conklin.
This is Representative Conklin. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is, again, house cleaning for the 2019-2020 budget. It moves funds from one line item to another within the fire budget. They're not asking for any contingency or anything extra. It is just balancing the budget that has already ended. We heard, Public Services heard this on Thursday, September 3rd, and it passed 5-0. And I put that in the form of a motion before the RTM.
Representative Flanagan here. Is there any comments from members of the RTM?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Sullivan. I just have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Representative Sullivan.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Moderator, to Representative Conklin. Can you just tell me what the port security grant cost share item is? That just caught my attention as it has obviously a different account number, and I didn't know that Branford had a port. So I'm just curious about that item.
This is Representative Conklin. Representative Sullivan, I cannot.
Okay, thank you.
This is Representative Black. I believe it's something to do with the fireboat, and we may have bought more engines for them. I recall we were getting a grant for that.
Okay.
Any other discussion from members? Okay. Any other discussion from members of the RTM? Is there any discussion from members of the public? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? Okay, this item passes. Moving on to item number 11, to consider an appropriate approval request from the Director of Parks and Recreation Department for the following budget transfer for fiscal 2020. From utilities, water, gas, and electric, $7,000. To uniform clothing allowance, $600. To grounds R&M, $6,000. To equipment, $400. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is Representative Black. This is again fiscal year cleanup from the Recreation Department. As you'll hear later, the electric bill for the community house was switched from the Recreation Department to the GGB, General Government Buildings. So there's a surplus in that. They do still have electricity for all the fields, and they're hoping with some of the LED lights that cost will go down a lot too. The uniform is a contractual requirement for a new employee, and the equipment part is for some furnishings for the new community house, and the grounds is just the grounds maintenance for the fields. So we approve this 5-0, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Motion on the floor to Representative Flanagan, a motion on the floor to approve this transfer. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM? Is there any discussion from the public? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? Hearing none, this item passes. Item number 12, to consider and if appropriate, approve a request from the tax collector for the following budget transfer for fiscal 2020 from regular wages and salaries, $1,693, to professional development, $743, and to online services for a total of $950. Representative Alphone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. With the retirement of a senior staffer in the tax department, there was additional training required for newer employees on the QDS tax system, this is the first part of the transfer, the $743. The second part of $950 is for the online services account, which is used to pay the cost of LexisNexis and our online tax payment platform. After the fiscal year 20 budget was adopted, the tax department was notified that the minimum for service was increasing from $50 a month to $150 per month, which is why the transfer is requested. This is, the money is available from vacancies in the department, so it's just an inter-department transfer, more of a housekeeping item. It was approved unanimously in committee with a 7-0 vote.
Okay, Representative Flanagan here. There's a motion on the floor to approve this transfer. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM? Is there any discussion from the public? Hearing none, is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? This item carries. Moving on to item 13, to continue discussions on the Dan Cosgrove Animal Shelter Facility expansion appropriation, and to consider if appropriate, approve the following transfer requests and resolution. Animal Control Fund, increase the fund balance by $100,000 and increase the transfer out municipal facilities fund by $100,000, and municipal facilities funding to increase transfer in by $100,000 and to increase animal shelter renovation and expansion by $100,000. Resolved that the Board of Finance recommends to the RTM a transfer out of $100,000 to the Municipal Funds Facilities Fund to fund a portion of the animal shelter renovation. This transfer out will be funded from the Animal Control Fund undesignated fund balance and increase the fiscal year 2021 Animal Control Fund balance from $367,026 to $467,026. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We heard this jointly with Public Services. It's actually a decrease from the Animal Control Fund balance of $100,000 going into eventually the Animal Shelter Renovation and Expansion Fund. And that's what this resolution is about. So we're increasing the Animal Control Fund budget by $100,000, but the animal shelter, like Human Services, has a fund balance that's allowed to keep surpluses from operations and donations in its own account. So that's where this money is coming from, this various donations or surpluses from animal camp. So this is money that's been generated by the animal shelter going to an animal shelter project. This was passed unanimously in both committees. So I'll put that in the form of a motion, and I don't know if Don wants to say anything for this.
This is Representative Conklin, and I do not. Thank you, Peter.
Okay, is there any discussion from members of the RTM? Representative Ricchio? Representative Ricchio?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Regarding this proposal that's in front of us, Representative Ricchio will be supporting this project. I think there's many people in the town of Branford that love the Branford Animal Facility. It services not only Branford, but North Branford. North Branford is a very good business partner of ours, and I would encourage everyone on the RTM to support this project.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Henschel.
Representative Henschel, go ahead.
Yes, just a point of procedure here, since we have the major bonding resolution as item 14. My suggestion is that we hold discussion of everybody's questions and individual thoughts on the project itself till 14, and just go ahead and vote on 13 by itself without discussion, so that we don't break up discussion into two different line items in discussion of the same project.
So Representative Flanagan, so Representative Henschel, are you saying that we should deal with item 13 separately from 14?
I'm suggesting that we wait to have our comments about our opinions on the project to item 14, and just go ahead and take a simple vote on 13, and then have discussion on the project as part of 14, since that's the major allocation of money, just to simplify, where all our discussion takes place.
Representative Flanagan, go ahead. That's fine.
That's
any other discussion from members of the RTM?
Mr. Moderator.
Cosgrove? Hold on. Representative Flanagan here. Selectman Cosgrove, you like to talk on this item?
No, I concur with Representative Henschel. The main discussion regarding this project should take place under item 14. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're doing item 13 now for the $100,000. Any other discussion on this item from either the public or RTM?
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Sullivan. I just have a question about this item, and it is specifically on the $100,000.
Okay, go ahead, Representative Sullivan.
So it's my understanding that the contract with North Branford deals with operating costs, and my question revolves around the fact if this $100,000 going to the Animal Control Fund, is that going to be considered part of their operating budget for the current fiscal year, which would then increase the dollar amount that would be needed to be funded from the town of North Branford by percentage? So I'm just trying to get a clarification on if that dollar amount is considered part of operating expenses. Thank you.
Representative Flanagan and Representative Black.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Black. My understanding was that it would not be that these are donation. This is a donation. Essentially, we're moving donated money out of the general donations fund to this project. The first selectman may have an interpretation about this, but I would not expect these funds to be matched by North Branford. In fact, there was a recent amendment that was discussed at the Board of Finance and a little bit at our committee as well, to have the contributions be net. So I'll let the first selectman or the finance director is on board. They may have another opinion, but I don't think it would be matched. I don't think we'd be sending them a bill for $30,000 based on this.
Any other discussion from the members of the RTM? Or members of the public? Okay, hearing none. Are there any no votes on approving this item? Are there any abstentions? Okay, item number 13 passes. Moving on to item 14. To receive communications with respect to and consider and act upon the resolution entitling Resolution Appropriating $2,895,000 for the renovation and expansion of the Branford Animal Shelter, and to authorize the issuance of $2,895,000 bonds of the town of Branford to meet said appropriation, ending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. The full text of this resolution is on file, open to the public inspection in the office of the town clerk, and posted on the town website. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is Representative Black. Ways and Means heard this in a joint meeting with Public Services last Thursday. First, I'd like to make a motion to waive reading of the bond resolution. Look for a second for that.
I would second that. Representative Conklin would second that.
Okay, motion, Representative Flanagan is a motion on the floor, and it's been seconded to waive the reading of the bond resolution. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM? Hearing none. Are there any no votes? Are there any abstentions? Okay, the waiving of the reading of the resolution passes. Continue, Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, we heard this jointly with Public Services last Thursday. This is the bulk of the financing for the animal shelter. They've made a effort here to raise approximately $1 million. They're not quite there yet. It's about $730,000 that they've got in commitments. We did take a vote on this in Ways and Means. It was 3-2 favorably, so I put that in the form of a motion. And I know there was I'm not sure how many were in favor in Public Services, so I'll let Representative Conklin address that.
Yeah, this is Representative Conklin, and in Public Services in the same evening, the vote was 4-1 in favor of this resolution to appropriate the $2,895,000.
Okay, is there just Representative Flanagan, is there a minority report either from Public Services or from Ways and Means?
At this point, I don't think there will be. Representative Brockett and I were in the minority. We did meet with the first selectman. There were various concerns raised at our meeting, and I believe the first selectman would like to address some of those concerns here. So I'll let, if with your permission, Mr. Moderator, I'll let First Selectman Cosgrove speak to specific.
Representative Flanagan, Selectman Cosgrove, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you. First Selectman Cosgrove. Yeah, I just want to thank Representative Black and Representative Brockett for taking the time and meeting with me today. As this body knows, I've often mentioned many times that, I encourage all representatives, if they have any questions, that, feel free to reach out to me and for further clarification and explanation on any issues. And I, again, thank them for taking the time to meet today. I will just touch upon, I think, which were the three major concerns from each respective caucus that was shared, and provide further clarification on those. One was the total cost. The total cost is a budget amount of $2.895 million, and how that was derived. I think there was reference to a previous animal shelter commission meeting where it was stated that it was in the neighborhood of 1.8 million. I did explain to representatives, as well as another representative had emailed me on this matter. That was over a year ago. That estimate at the time was really limited in scope. It was very just limited to the actual building at the time, and didn't contemplate the entire scope of the project. Since that time, the commission, and working along with their team, have further refined the scope, bringing forward our accurate budget cost for the project. You have the letter that was sent to Board of Finance, which outlines the budget for the project. So the other issue was the amount of property. Now, both the animal shelter and the transfer station sit on a parcel of town-owned property that is 10.4 acres. Discussion took place in terms of what would be required for the animal shelter to land to accommodate this expansion. To be clear, it is probably additional, looking at their existing footprint. When I say the footprint, it's not only the building, but driveway, parking area, dog run area, setbacks that the animal shelter currently occupy. It is roughly an additional 0.15 acres. I did state in the Ways and Means it was about 0.2 because of acres. So to be clear, that is the additional, I would say, footprint of the operations. Looking at it, most of that, or all of that, quite honestly, will be offset through improved circulation through the entire site. Regardless of this project, anybody who is familiar with the operations, in particular down below behind the transfer station, there's a lot of inefficiencies with the current traffic circulation. And we plan on addressing that. Again, even regardless of this project, that should take place. So to be clear, it's all happening on town-owned property. These are 2 town departments and will remain in control and ownership of the town, the 10.4 acres. I know there was reference to 73.3 of the town code. That clearly does not apply to this. That is to prevent essentially the sale of town property. Actually, I know under a previous issue that particular chapter was referenced. I believe it was amended or drafted in 97 in response to an administration looking to transfer or sell town-owned land. And so that's where that doesn't apply to this situation. This is, again, all wholly town-owned property. These are 2 town departments and will remain town property. I guess the third issue that I want to touch upon is the contribution from North Branford per our agreement. There was a lot of discussion around the approved amendment to the agreement that the Board of Selectmen recently adopted. And there was concern that it was not inclusive of capital or debt service costs. Now, the finance director, who's served our town for couple decades now, as well as the finance director of North Branford, both voiced their opinion that debt service is part of the operating budget. We've billed them in the past, and they have paid their fee that is inclusive of debt service. I still know there was some concern among members. However, I just want to point out that amendment that the Board of Selectmen approved recently really amended. It was an amendment to the existing agreement. The original agreement that was adopted in 2005, and it was a replace section 2.1 of the agreement. If you were to look at section 2.3 of the agreement, it is clearly states, and reviewed this with Representative Brockett, Representative Black. Section 2.3 clearly deals with the capital improvements to the facility and equipment. And it clearly states that North Branford is responsible for their proportionate share of capital improvements. That remains in effect under the current agreement that we have with North Branford. I'm happy to answer any other questions regarding this project. I know Director Laura Bourbon is on the meeting as well, and she could probably speak to the project itself better than I can.
Okay, Dennis Flanagan and Representative Flanagan, is there any questions, any discussion from members of the RTM?
Yeah, if I could follow up with the first selectman, this Representative Black. Just have a specific question.
Representative Black, go ahead.
For the first selectman, the section 2.3 says that both parties must agree to the improvements. Has North Branford yet agreed to the improvements? I know there've been informal discussions.
So as I've stated to this body, that I have informed North Branford Town Manager, as stated per the agreement, as required, informally. We've had discussions over the years about this project, is aware of this project, as well as the finance director, I may add, for North Branford. I have shared with him the estimated budget at the time. I have shared with them what we were estimating for the revenues through the various funding sources. I think it's appropriate for us to have a formal communication with North Branford. After this is, as we said, a town facility. This project, we have a fee for service agreement with North Branford. So I think the communication with North Branford is appropriate to take place after the approval of the town bodies.
Thank you.
Any other members of the RTM wish to speak to this?
Representative Tillman.
Austin.
Go ahead,
Representative Austin, go ahead.
I'll defer.
Yeah, Representative Austin. First, let me say that I think the staff at the animal shelter does an absolutely incredible job under what I perceive to be pretty deplorable situation. I fully support this project, and I think it's fine to reach out to our neighboring shoreline towns like New Haven and Guilford and possibly Madison to help out occasionally with taking in an animal or helping to place an animal. However, I do not believe that the staff should be using their time and energy to take in animals from every other part of the state and or the country. I just think this needs to be an animal shelter for the town and the town of North Branford, and that we should put a stop to being open arms to everybody in the country.
Any other members from the RTM wishing to speak?
Representative Edelman.
Representative Edelman, go ahead.
First, I would second those thoughts by Representative Austin concerning the staff at the animal shelter. But I have a question for Selectman Cosgrove. You state that section 73.3, which I personally don't believe in a fair reading applies, but I wanted to ask you, you state that its main objective is to prevent the town from selling property, but there are other uses of the property that are prohibited without the approval of the RTM called for in the charter. Is it your position that the expansion of the animal shelter doesn't fall with any of those items articulated in the charter that would need RTM approval?
Yes.
Selectman Cosgrove?
Selectman Cosgrove, to Representative Edelman's question, yes. The title of the Chapter 73 is Sale and Disposition of Property. I do not feel that this project by any way falls under any of those conditions as identified in 73-3. You know, as I stated, these are both town departments. The property will remain fully in control of the town.
Okay, I just wanted to make it clear that there, you know, gifts, transfers, encumbrances, there are other dispositions of the property,
Correct,
uses
yeah.
of the property that are prohibited in section 73.3 other than a sale. So I just wanted to make sure that the town was confident that that regulation is being complied with in any expansion by the animal shelter, which I believe a fair reading of it does, since it's town property that's owned and they're already a tenant there. But I just wanted to hear the first selectman's point of view on that, because I don't think it was accurately stated that that's all that section, certainly inadvertently, but I don't think that was all that section prohibits the town from doing absent RTM approval. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah,
Mr. Moderator, for Selectman Cosgrove here, yes, to
Representative Flanagan, go ahead, Selectman Cosgrove.
further clarify, yes, I'm in agreement, acknowledged to Representative Edelman's point. I guess to be clear, my thought is that chapter is really dealing with not solely the sale, but the town, let's say, transferring or relinquishing its rights or ownership of property.
Can I speak to that?
Or encumbering, I would add.
Encumbering, which would
Representative
be,
Edelman,
yes.
or encumbering.
Can I speak to that?
Wayne, we're dealing with questions from the RTM first.
I know, and then like 20 minutes later, I'm going to have to go back to this issue.
Well, any other members of the RTM wishing to speak to this?
Yes.
Mr. Mod-
Yes.
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 Mr.
Representative
Moderator,
Cohill?
Representative Henschel?
Representative Henschel, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to, I have one question that First Selectman Cosgrove has already answered, one more question that either he or Laura Bourbon could answer, and then a comment to make. The question I have for either of those two, I understand that this project is being given to the Public Building Commission for completion in terms of the engineering and design and construction elements, but I have been led to believe that some of the grants and possibly gifts that have been are being put toward this project may be timeline sensitive. And so my question is, what is the current status of the design of this project? It appears to be in a sort of schematic phase and still needing to go through the development of construction documents and bid documents, which probably will take, if that's the case, I would imagine would take until the early winter to complete. So that's a question for either the First Selectman or Laura. And then I have a comment to make that I'm very excited to hear that the intention is to design this facility as a green project and to work with the Clean Energy Committee to incorporate the vision of Branford's draft Clean Energy Plan into the building design. I believe that Greg Ames, who is a member of the Clean Energy Committee, is present, and I would like to ask him to just say a word or two about the possibility of working with the animal shelter and the Public Building Commission as a representative of the Clean Energy Committee on this project. If I could get an answer first from either Laura or the First Selectman.
He's not an RTM member. He's not an RTM.
Selectman Cosgrove or
Sure.
Laura Bourbon, anyone can comment?
My first
Selectman
question is for either Laura or the First Selectman, whoever feels most able to answer that question about the status.
Yeah, I First Selectman Cosgrove here. Yes, you are correct. Representative Henschel is just through a schematic phase. It will go through to the building commission. if this project is approved for funding for further, design, construction design. And I think that was all the question you had. You did have a question regarding if I can just comment on the priority for the this high efficiency green building that is being proposed. That was a priority of the commission. It was, I think, referenced in the letter to the Board of Finance, which the R.T.M has. And I think if the moderator wants to have Greg Ames make a comment, I'll now defer to him.
Yeah, I also, Jamie had a question about whether or not there were any grants that might be in jeopardy depending on the time that this project went to bid. Are we okay on that?
Selectman Cosgrove here. I would defer to Laura Bourbon to speak of the timing of the grants. However, from what's been relayed to me, I think we need to show that we are actually actively moving forward with a project. I think there are some time-sensitive grants, as well as, quite honestly, contributions from donors. They want to see this project move forward if they're going to, commit money to it. So it's not only grants, it's contributions from very generous donors. So I'll defer to Laura to speak on that further.
This is Laura Bourbon, the director of the Dan Cosgrove Animal Shelter. So yes.
Representative Flanagan. Go ahead, Laura. Go ahead, Laura.
Thank you. So Peter, yes, there are grants that are set to expire, two $5,000 grants that will be expiring in February of 2021, and one for $175,000 from that will expire in March of 2021. So as First Selectman Cosgrove stated, as long as we are moving forward, one of the next steps that I will do is, if this is approved tonight, is I will reach out to all the organizations to let them know the town has approved this and that we will start, moving on some different items so that we can show that we will hopefully be well on our way by the time these are set to expire.
Great. Mr. Moderator, if we could, I would request that we hear from Greg Ames. Although he is not a member of the R.T.M, at my request to get a comment from him. I wish you.
R.T.M. I'm sorry, he's not a member of the R.T.M. If he goes, I should go.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Ingraham.
Neither is Laura Burke, member of the R.T.M. I think it's allowable for the R.T.M to request comments from specific members of the general public.
No, this is if he goes,
Representative Flanagan. Wayne, you'll have your opportunity to speak. I agree with Representative Henschel. Is that gentleman on board here? Chris Haynes? Representative Henschel?
This is Greg Ames.
Greg Ames, go ahead, Greg.
Appreciate the opportunity to speak with people here. I think you're all well aware at this point that one of the major goal of the Clean Energy Committee is to move to clean energy, and that path is gotten to by enhancing the efficiency of our buildings. Our buildings being a large part of the energy consumption in town. This is, to us, a very important project because it's the first significant project that's occurred since the plan was developed, since our committee has been in existence. And we look at it as an opportunity to show a way to reach clean energy in all our buildings, not simply in new construction, but in modifying the existing building stock. Because over the years, if we're going to reach clean energy in approximately 20 years, that's going to happen in the existing building stock. And 20 years is about how long it takes to pretty much cycle buildings over, change their systems, evolve their systems into systems that utilize clean electricity so that we can reach this goal. So exploring these avenues with this project to us is a very important opportunity. We've had an opportunity to spend some time with the animal shelter people and are very enthused about the direction they're heading in. We think they're doing exactly the right things. And we're looking forward to being a participant in the process with them, doing everything we can to help them. I think there's an awful lot can be done here, and Diana Berkshire can testify as a past employee of the utility company that there's a lot to be gained by incorporating these, not only for their intrinsic value and for the savings that they'll engender over the life of the building, but for the fact that we can get a tremendous amount of financial help in the form of incentives from the utility company to make these things happen, and be terribly irresponsible of us if we didn't take advantage of this. So all told, I have to say that the Clean Energy Committee is excited to be engaged with this project. Very, very happy with the direction that the animal shelter folks have taken, and looking forward to being part of the process. Are there any specific questions I could answer in that regard?
No, I think that should do it. This is Representative Flanagan. Any of the members of the RTM wishing to speak to this?
Yes, sir. Yeah, this is
Representative Toohill, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. There was a tour that I took of the Dan Cosgrove Animal Shelter. I believe that Representative Erlinger scheduled it. It was held up there last February. When we toured the facility, we did find a very clean, well-operated animal shelter. Laura Bourbon, the director, her staff, Wendy, and everybody up there have always done, an outstanding job. It was clean. We did see that it was overcrowded. At the time that we were there, it was a full house. Laura explained that there are animals constantly coming and going as the shelter finds them new homes. I also looked at the plans, or the sketches, if you will, from Branford architect Joe Seapot, and they look great. So I'm going to vote for this, and I would encourage the whole RTM to vote yes. Thank you.
Representative Flanagan, any other members of the RTM wishing to speak?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, this is.
Senator Riccio, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, I kind of jumped the gun there earlier. So I am going to support this project, and some of the reasons are, first of all, this is a building that doesn't have a generator for backup electricity. There's no air conditioning in the dog cages area. It's unhealthy, not only for the dogs, but for the people that work there. And I'm concerned about the health, the health issues for the employees besides the animals. There's cages and hallways, as Representative mentioned. We have $175,000 plus grants waiting for us to pull the trigger on. We have $800,000 in donation pledges. There's 25,000 Facebook followers compared to 2,500 Blackstone Library followers, which is almost, how can I put it? Maybe it tells us where our priorities are, which is another story. But the town of Branford, in 2000, I think it was 17, the compassion in the entire community that supported that dog Hope. It was heart-wrenching to watch what that dog went through, but to watch the town of Branford come up to the plate and support that dog was incredible. I heard one of my colleagues mention that she didn't think that we should share this facility with other towns. I disagree with that. I think this is a very good example where regionalization makes sense. Regionalization is, we already have a good partner with the town of North Branford. We regionalized not only the animal shelter, but also the transfer station. I don't believe regionalization should be used to regionalize our school system that Hartford is trying to do right now, and many people don't know about that. But we should pay attention to that. But they are trying to regionalize the school system, and they want to regionalize and you merge the Branford school systems with, you know, maybe East Haven or North Branford. But regionalizing a animal shelter, or regionalizing the probate court system, or regionalizing, you know, shared resources like, you know, maybe Public Works, I think that's a good idea because both towns can save money. This is a no-brainer. I'm going to encourage that everyone on the RTM support this. And I also want to commend Laura Bourbon to doing a great job. The only little concern that I have, and I think we should, and this is something that Laura should review, or the administration should talk with Laura about. I did see some, when I went for a tour recently, I did see some critters over there that I'm not sure we should necessarily be really, you know, I mean, I know the animals might be hurt, but there's a couple of critters there that I'm not sure really should be being, how can I put this, our responsibility. Okay, but other than that, I'm in full support of this, Laura. You've done a great job, and I encourage everyone on this body to support this. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Any other members from the RTM wishing? This is Representative Flanagan. Any other members from the RTM?
Hey, I'll do Representative Greenberg.
Representative Greenberg, go ahead.
Okay, so I have a quick comment, guys. So I did take a tour of this several months back, I want to say in the winter time, and I would encourage, if anyone has not and is going to vote on this, I would encourage you guys to go look at the facilities. I'm going to vote to pass this, and if you are voting otherwise, I would encourage you guys to take a look at the facilities. And that's all I have to say. So I hope everyone votes to pass this, and we will see what happens.
Okay. Any other members of the RTM?
Yeah, Representative Austin, I just want to make a point of clarification that I fully support this project and will vote yes. And I am all about helping our sister communities along the shoreline, if that's what Representative Riccio was talking about. But I am not in support of taking animals in from other states. I think they need to focus on our communities and what's best for our communities. Thank you.
Okay, any other members of the RTM wishing to speak?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Everson.
Okay, Representative Everson, go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to commend the staff first at the Branford Animal Shelter for the good work that they do under less than optimal circumstances in a cramped and outdated building that over the years, the town could have done a much better job of maintaining, and the donors who have pledged their financial support so far. We must remember that this nearly $2.9 million project originally began as an $800,000 renovation discussion. How we got here has been the subject of much discussion, and rightly so. Tonight, the RTM is being asked to approve more borrowing in order to construct another new building in town. This will be another long-term debt for our taxpayers to pay off. That's a real concern at this particular moment in time. As we are all very well aware, we're in the midst of a global pandemic. Branford residents are facing job losses and layoffs. The RTM approved a measure that gives taxpayers more time until October 1st to pay the first half of their property tax bill. In another month, we're going to find out just how much tax revenue does come in. There's an economic crisis out there, and this proposal comes at a time that is unfortunate, I think, when we think about everyone loves animals. I'm an animal lover. I would love to do everything for animals, but I also think we have to think about the humans in this town and the financial impact that this project is going to have on the humans. Tonight, the clarification was made by the first selectman regarding North Branford's potential contribution and discussions that have now taken place, which a lot of us appreciate because that was an outstanding question that we had. Again, to the donors who have generously pledged your financial support, Thank you in advance. Checks and balances make for good government. Following the public bidding process in the town charter regarding town land makes for good government. Holding elected officials accountable is good government. Seeking answers to questions is good government. It's not political. I'm sure we'll have a world-class animal shelter when it's finished that we can all be proud of. I'll be voting in favor of this.
Okay, any other members of the R.T.M. wishing to speak? Any members of the public wishing to speak?
Yes, of course.
Okay, go ahead, Wayne, you're up.
I'd like to screen share for a minute, please. Is that something Lisa can allow?
That's not up to me, Mr. Moderator. This is Lisa Arpin.
I'm sorry, I didn't, Wayne, what was the question?
I'd like to screen share for a moment.
I don't think at this point, Wayne, we're gonna do that.
Oh,
Okay?
come
That's
on.
my-
Now,
that's my
why
rule.
wouldn't you
No,
let me
no.
do that? Why wouldn't you let me do that?
If you want to talk about the animal shelter, I have no problem with that. Go ahead and talk about it.
About the animal shelter, but I want to use a visual. If I brought in posters, you'd let me do that, wouldn't you?
But does it pertain to the animal shelter?
Of course it pertains to the animal shelter. What do you think I'm talking about, Dennis?
Well, no, now you can talk to
This
it, but
is
we're not gonna screen share.
Representative Riccio. I think we should allow Mr. Cook to
Thank you.
speak about this, and that's how I feel about it.
You know, maybe, thank you, Representative Riccio. Maybe you folks will get a little wider perspective, which won't hurt anybody. Am I allowed to do it?
All right, go ahead, Wayne. Representative Flanagan, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm not real good at this, so help me out.
I see it.
Is that, can you see the whole screen or just?
No, we
there,
Representative, we
Wayne.
can see the whole screen, Wayne.
You see
We
the
can see the whole.
Okay, well, let me start at the top and indulge me in this one, please. 'Cause I think it's important that you get a perspective of this. All right, clearly the animal shelter, proposal, and I think it's a very nice building and I support it entirely, but I have a couple concerns. I went to the Animal Shelter Commission and, they can speak to this, and I had concerns on this particular project based upon a couple other projects that have been done in town recently, one of which is the Walsh Intermediate School. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but, just to give you some context. I have a problem with the way this was done, and it caused me to have some red flags on the animal shelter. I won't go into the detail, but in a nutshell, I don't know why we're spending $90 million for a middle school, definitely no amount of money for the high school. So that was really where that. I don't know. Did I lose you?
You're there, Wayne.
All right, Wayne, let's move on with this.
No, I'm trying to get this going. I don't know what happened. Hang on. You let everybody else talk, Dennis. Give me a break, will you please? I mean, Greg Ames got up there and spent 5 minutes talking about green energy. How the heck is that relevant to this project? So that's that. Now, the other project I had concern about was the community house, but I'll skip over that one because I don't want to get anybody upset. But the bottom line is that's a colossal waste of money down there for a changing footprint that's just this one little area. Now, how does it relate to the animal shelter? Well, here's the animal shelter area. Now, there's quite a bit of land in the back, as you can see. I would say there's probably 5 or 6 acres. Now, based upon that, I was concerned with how they're going to use that in relation to the animal shelter. Now, I heard they were going to use like 4 or 5 acres for walking trails for dogs. I said, well, that's a little bit extravagant. And then they said, well, maybe it'll be just 2 acres. So I asked a little further, and and again, this is another view of it, because I remember it wasn't long ago when Public Works was proposed for that area. Now, the selectman said it wasn't. Well, I remember it was at least discussed so that there was room up there to do other things. So let's get, quite frankly, to this rule here, the 73-3. Now, the first selectman says, well, it's only sale. Well, I don't think he was misspeaking. I think that, quite frankly, he honestly believes it's just a sale. But as you can see, it goes a lot further than that, as Representative Edelman said. says no town agency, town officer, or the Board of Selectmen shall acquire, sell, lease, mortgage, abandon, gift, transfer, or encumber in any manner real property of the town until such action has been approved by a majority vote of the members of the R.T.M. I don't think it could be any clearer. By taking any room that is in addition to the site plan on that property and using it for walking trails, you are encumbering town-owned land. You can't say you're not because you designated it for a specific use. Now, let me say this, the Tabor property, and I'll use it as an example, cost the town $20 million. Now, does the first selectman have the authority to authorize the Greenway Trail to cut that thing in half? Is that encumbering the Tabor property? I think it is. Particularly when, does he have the authority to use the area as a dump? Is that encumbering the property? I think it is. So the point I'm trying to raise is this, that you got to be specific before you approve this project as to how much land is going to be used in the back of that building for walking trails. Because I asked Director Bourbon, I said, do you have a site plan? And she said, no, we don't. Well, how do you know what's really being used? So that's really my point. You know, and can I ask either the director or the first selectman or whomever, what are the plans for that property in addition to what the immediate footprint of that building is? Are you going to be taking any additional acreage for walking trails? Because I understand that you're looking for at least 2 acres. And if you are, that should be part of this proposal. And that's really what I have to say. Oh, one more thing. I mean, this nonsense about green technology, all right? I mean, go on and on and on. This is what I'm talking about, you know? Fine, you know, I'm not entirely against green technology, but the problem with Mr. Ames and his committee is that they only present one perspective. That's it. You know, you won't have any argument for fossil fuels or the advantages of fossil fuels versus green versus, I mean, that's the problem with what they're presenting. So don't buy into this nonsense about green, 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 because although it has advantages, you got to look at both sides of this issue. You got to look both sides, and they're not looking at it. So can I ask about these walking trails? Because that's the one reservation that I have, because quite frankly, I'll echo other people's, you know, statements. Outstanding staff, outstanding commission, outstanding, you know, potential to have a great, great facility. I'm 100% behind it, but I'm really concerned about those walking trails because quite frankly, I see how this first selectman does things. And he just does things because he thinks he can, and nobody stands in his way. And it's happening down at Tabor, and we'll visit that next week.
All right, Wayne. All right.
I asked a question.
Yeah.
It's Selectman Cosgrove or?
Yeah, Selectman Cosgrove, I believe the question was regarding to how much property would be taken or be used for walking trails, correct? So,
right.
All right. So we talked about this project and we talked about the parcel being 10.4 acres. This project in terms of what is being considered tonight has to do with the building expansion and circulation improvements and some improvements right around the building, which I said would require about 0.15 plus or minus acres. I believe what Mr. Cook is referring to was a discussion that took place at a commission meeting, which said, you know, and Director Laura Bourbon has stated many times during her presentations that they walk the dogs and they go up the driveway and back down the driveway. There is property that is part of the 10.4 acres, however, outside of the fenced-in area, out beyond the activity of the transfer station operations down in the back. They were looking into if making a trail down to access that property. That is not part of this project. That is a simple trail to access it if they want to look at it, to enter into the wooded area that falls outside of the transfer station, fenced in, down in the back, where everything is. So, and with this point, I think the point that Mr. Cook was trying to make, as well as going through his slide show, he continues to reference encumbrance. And I'm not an attorney, but my understanding is that an encumbrance is a claim on a property by a party who's not the owner, right? We are, as I stated over and over again, whether it's the Tabor property and the Shoreline Greenway Trail, which we are the owner of that property. With this project here, we remain the owner of the property, and no party that is not the owner is having claim to this property. So again, I'm not an attorney, but my understanding is that is what encumbrance under the law means. Thank you.
Can I speak to that, please?
And once again, actually, one first, I want to just go ahead. I'll defer now to the moderator.
I
Thank you.
understand what the first
All right,
selectman.
Mr. Cook, Professor Flanagan. Hey, Wayne, let's wrap this up, huh?
Why should I have to wrap it? You would let him go on forever. You know,
All right, let's go. Come on.
why don't you quit steering this whole thing? You know, let people speak. This is the town meeting. I have a perfect right as citizen of this town to speak. You know, you let everybody else go on and on and on. But the minute I say something, you know, you just jump all over me. It's wrong. That said, what the first selectman said, I don't know what his definition of encumbrance is, but to me, that means that you're tying up a piece of property. That's what an encumbrance is. You're tying it up. And if you put in a walking trail, regardless where it is, you're tying that up. And I know how this first selectman does things. Look at Tabor. You know, you tell me that the Greenway Trail's not an encumbrance down there? That, you know, the dump isn't an encumbrance? Of course it's an encumbrance. So he said he's going to put some little walking trail through the woods. Well, let's see. Let's see what that looks like in 2 or 3 years. Maybe you don't care, but I bet you it's expanded way up, way over the place. And here's the thing. If they really had this in mind, then why don't they have a site plan? Why don't they have a site plan? That's not that difficult to do. I mean, I don't know how much the architect cost to design the thing, but just give us a site plan and show where these trails are. Is that asking too much?
Any other members of the public wishing to speak?
If I may say something,
None? Yeah, state your name.
Todd Petrowski.
Go ahead, Todd.
I would just like to say, for starters, I 100% agree with moving this project forward. I agree with Representative Austin. I agree with Representative Riccio that we've spent money other places that aren't necessarily as good as this. I agree with Representative Greenberg, and I agree with Representative Everson. But my only question that I would like, and Representative Sires mentioned this 2 meetings ago with the Board of Selectmen meeting, is opposed to the tax credits. Now, Mr. Ames says, you know, we're going to get tax credits, but to her knowledge is that only affects of who's in office at the time and how that goes. That's not guaranteed for 10 years you're going to get tax credits. That could change at any moment. And again, that goes back to the green energy. That should really have nothing to do with this project. And last but not least, as far as the money distribution goes of who's footing the bill, I'd just like to know if maybe Mrs. Bourbon can answer the question, and just to her, you and your staff do a great job up there at the animal shelter. I'd like to put that out there. But how many dogs, how many stray dogs are collected in Branford? Even if you could give me maybe 18 or, 2018, 2019. And then how many stray dogs come from North Branford? And then as opposed to how many we take in from out of state, because, you know, we got to stop being a charity in this town. I understand we got to help the less fortunate, but there comes a time where the taxpayers are footing a bill here that it should be for the Branford residents, not people in Louisiana or Texas or Tennessee. And, you know, if we're full, you know, then the place is full. You can't just keep throwing animals in there, because that makes it even worse. And I mean, if someone could answer the question is, what is the breakdown of stray dogs collected in Branford for a 1-year period as opposed to North Branford? I would, and I'm sure everyone would like that answer, because I think it's very relevant to the cost. I mean, if North Branford is bringing in the same amount as we are, they should obviously be paying half the bill that we are. I mean, that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, if we're taking in dogs from New Haven because they have a high kill rate in their shelters, you know, maybe there are 3-4-year-old pit bulls that maybe aren't that friendly, that maybe aren't going to get adopted, and maybe we're sorry to be rude, but the truth is, maybe we're wasting our resources on these animals. And agree with Mr. Riccio, there is critters there that we shouldn't be taking in because, nature has to run its course too. A goose that's ill by the river, that's food for crabs, that's food for bluefish and every other, hawks. So, I mean, there is a time and place where, dogs and cats, I could see it, birds, fine. But, when you get to wild animals like that, you got to draw the line a little bit. And that's all I like to say. And I'd just like to keep it brief, but I would like that answered, that question answered if she would. Thank you very much.
Representative Flanagan here, Laura Berman, can you possibly answer that question for Mr. Petrowski?
Sure. I apologize. Zoom has kicked me off again. So now I'm in the first selectman's office. So when I started the town, which was 12 years ago, the towns of Branford and North Branford had approximately 200 animals coming in. And that's increased over time. And it's not just stray dogs, it's stray cats, it could be domestic rabbits. As an animal facility, we are required to take in animals that are hurt, abandoned, strays. And we don't necessarily know where these animals are coming from. A big dumping spot in our community is Holdsley Avenue, as well as the T&A truck stop, places like that. They're not necessarily coming from Branford or North Branford, but if they're dumped in our community, we're certainly going to do our job to take care of those animals. There are animals that come in from other places. Those animals are not being paid for by taxpayer dollars. Those are sponsored animals by people who are sitting on this call today. Those are sponsored animals by people who don't live in our state. They are paying for these animals to be spayed and neutered. They're paying for them to be vaccinated. They're paying for them to be microchipped and heartworm tested. Basically, we are a landing spot for them. And there are people sitting on this call today that have adopted those animals. So, what we do is, because times are changing, you're going to see less and less animals available for sale at pet stores and things like that. They're going to be coming to people like us to get an animal for their home. So we've always tried to be very responsible with how we've gone about doing things. We've never come back to the town to say, even a hit by car dog that was abandoned in our community, pay for that dog to get better. We've always fundraised on our own. So I completely appreciate, your questions and also, Patty's point of view. It's just the animals that we're taking in, we're not taking in an aggressive dog from, say, New Haven. We certainly don't know if a dog was dumped in our community that ends up being aggressive, where it came from. But, we certainly make determinations, and it's not just me making those determinations, staff members, it's trainers that come in and help. So we work with lots of different people to make sure that these animals are okay to be going back out.
Excuse me, Representative.
Thank you. Representative Lawson?
Yeah, Laura, again, I'm one of your biggest fans. I think you and your staff do an incredible job. My point was, when you're full, and you can't keep making room for other animals from other places, because we could put all this money into your new facility and wind up in the same situation where you're just overcrowded and understaffed, because God bless your heart, you don't say no.
Can I just make a comment to that, Patty?
Yeah.
We're actually not looking to increase space to add more animals in our facility. We're looking to create efficiencies where there's currently deficits. Things like right now, the ventilation system is all the same. So those animals that are in the hallway that you might see might be out there because they're pregnant, or because they've just had babies, or they might be out of the cat room because they have ringworm, and we're trying our best to keep them separate as much as possible from the animals in the adoption room. So right now, with what you're seeing, it's not necessarily because we can't figure out how to fit them in the appropriate areas. It's just with the way the shelter is set up, there's deficiencies. And it's certainly not because the people who were involved with building this weren't thinking about different aspects. It's just over time, things change. We've grown more, we have more programs, we have things like Animal Camp where we can't even house the kids anywhere. So there's things that we've created as a community that the communities come forward and say we wanted. And that's why we're looking to create the improvements that we are.
I do understand that, Laura. It's just, again, with all the improvements, I would hope that you would have space to put those animals who are pregnant or cats with ringworm, other than in the central area where you're doing intake and all of that. That's all.
Absolutely.
I'd like to see you have room to function and not be overcrowded and Say no when you have to say.
Flanagan here. Representative Flanagan
Moderator.
here. Just remember to identify yourself every time you speak, Rob. Mr. Petrowski, did that answer your question?
Yes, and if I could just respond to that for 1 second.
Go ahead.
I would just like to say thank you very much. My whole point of the question was, I just wanted to make sure that the Branford taxpayer wasn't taking on the burden of other towns. And that's for all of us, everyone that pays taxes. That was my whole point to it. And thank you. And again, I'm all for this project. You guys do a great job, and thank you very much. Yes, that answered the question.
All right, any
Mr.
other members of
Moderator,
the,
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Preet.
Representative Preet, there's Representative Flanagan, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Representative Preet. Can we move this item, please?
Do that.
I just, Representative Preet, I just want to be sure that there's not any other members of the public that wish to speak to this.
One last comment.
Mr. Moderator, this is Town Clerk Arpin.
Go ahead, Town Clerk Arpin.
We have a hand up. Ms. Karen Putney would like to speak. She's been very patient. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name's
Go
Karen
ahead.
Putney. I actually don't reside in town. I live in East Haven. I'm a state licensed wildlife rehabilitator that works closely with all of the staff at the shelter. They call me frequently whenever residents stop by with surprise wild animals. Wildlife is not something that the staff takes care of or pays for. That's something that volunteer rehabilitators like myself take care of, and those finances come directly out of my pockets. I appreciate them always being able to reach out right away and help me arrange transport to me so that they can be squared away. And aside from that, the reason I connected with them originally is actually because I've been volunteering there for a couple of years now. We actually have 4 dogs and 1 cat, all who have come from Cosgrove. I have 2 young daughters who volunteer there regularly, and we were proudly the Volunteers of the Year this year. We enjoy our time there immensely. What the shelter does, not just for animals, but for the community, with community outreach and volunteerism, is remarkable. It's something that you don't see in other towns, and the other towns are not ever offering. It's incredible the reach that Cosgrove has, not just to Branford, North Branford, or the state of Connecticut, but nationally. The amount of followers on Facebook is incredible. People in other states model what they want their shelters to look like after what this staff is doing. The fact that the front lobby is a place where, as a dog walker, I have to exit the building with a dog. You never know who's coming through that front door just to talk to the staff and sign in. There's no safe entry and exit for all of these activities. As far as speaking to animals in hallways, it's not because there's not another place for them. It's because that's the safest place for them, because the building is outdated and they just don't meet the needs anymore. And I think that everyone needs to really consider how much the shelter and the staff are impacting the community and how much the community is rallying to support the shelter. Wolfstock every year on the Branford Green raises thousands and thousands of dollars for the medical fund. These animals that need medical care that the shelter steps in to take care of because nobody else will, that's being paid for by the public out of the goodness of their heart, not because they're taxpayers, but because they care and they support the shelter. And I think we need to realize that this is something that the community is getting behind and they support fully. Thank you.
Okay, are we ready to vote on this? Is any other members of the RTM?
I got another comment, please, Representative.
Mr. Cook, your last comment. Go ahead.
Sure. I'd like to just clarify that you're voting tonight on the building. You're not voting on any surrounding property. Am I correct about that?
That's to my knowledge, I believe that's correct. Yeah, if I'm wrong, somebody please correct me.
If the animal shelter wants surrounding property, they should come back to the RTM based upon 73-3 with a site plan. Correct about that?
That's fair.
Selectman Cosgrove, is that correct?
Don't ask him.
Well, wait a minute, I'm asking him.
He doesn't know. He's interpreting it the way that he wants.
How about Representative Black? Does he know?
Please don't be disrespectful, please.
I'd just like to know.
Moderator.
Whoever
Oh,
made
go
the
ahead.
motion should know what they're motioning.
Are we talking about surrounding land?
Moderator, if I can answer the question, you asked me to address the question. So before you tonight is a bonding authorization and appropriation of $2.895 million for the renovation expansion of the animal shelter. That was presented, schematic was presented, and that is what's before you. Again, it was clearly answered. And as far as the question, as far as coming under for any future, I think it was clearly stated that 73-3 does not apply to this project, you know, or for what I think the other projects that Mr. Cook is referencing. I mean,
I
you
disagree.
know, because his definition of, I already explained what I feel is the legal definition of encumbrance, to hang that on. So I think it's clear what is before the RTM as representatives. I think you understand the scope of this project. You understand the financing, and it's your, turn it back to you to.
Well, I'm going to go on record and say I challenge that interpretation of encumbrance, and I'll pursue it however I see fit. So.
All right, Representative Flanagan, I think we're ready to vote on this at this point. This will be a roll call vote because of the bonding issue. Town clerk of the R.T.M. will do a roll call vote on this.
Okay,
Donna?
this is Representative Leach. Roll call vote. Representative Edelman.
Representative Edelman, yes.
Representative Alphone.
Representative Alphone, yes.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson, yes.
Representative Austin. I think you're muted, Representative Austin.
So sorry. Representative Austin, definitely yes.
Thank you. Representative Black.
Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett.
Representative Brockett votes yes.
Representative Conklin.
Representative Conklin votes yes.
Representative Everson.
Representative Everson votes yes.
Representative Erlanger.
Representative Erlanger votes yes.
Can everyone please mute? Thank you. Representative Greenberg.
That was her. She was getting ready.
Yes, Greenberg. Did I hear anything?
She's having trouble. Hang on a second.
She was the noise. So.
Oh, okay.
Representative Greenberg, yes. I'm sorry, guys. I'm on a cancer benefit. It's loud here.
Thank you.
Right.
Representative Haken.
Representative Happily votes yes.
Representative Healy.
Representative Healy votes yes.
Representative Henschel.
Representative Henschel votes yes.
Representative Hines. Representative Hines.
Representative Hines votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Ingraham.
Representative Ingraham votes yes.
Representative Jackson.
Representative Jackson votes yes.
Representative Leach votes yes. Representative Preet.
Representative Preet votes yes.
Representative Ricchio.
Representative Ricchio votes yes.
Representative Sember.
Representative Zember votes yes.
Representative Sires.
Representative Sires, yes.
Representative Sumro.
Representative Sumro, yes.
Representative Stepanik.
He's absent.
Oh,
He's absent.
sorry.
Brockett, Representative Stepanik is absent, Donna.
Thank you. Representative Sullivan.
This is Representative Sullivan voting yes.
Representative Torelli. Representative Torelli, you might be muted.
Representative Torelli, are you there? All right, move on with that, Representative Leach.
Okay. Representative Toohill
This is Representative Frank Toohill, and I vote yes.
and Representative Wells.
Representative Wells votes yes.
Okay. Representative Torelli, are you back? No. Okay. Okay, it's unanimous for all
Unanimous
that
vote.
voted.
Okay, item 14 passes with a unanimous vote of the RTM. Moving on to item 15.
I would,
Consider-
excuse me, this is Town Clerk Lisa. I would say that there was one no vote, Torelli, but she is still on the call.
Well,
Not a no vote.
One no vote.
we don't know, Representative.
Representative Torelli votes yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Is it
Claire,
coming
you-
through?
You sleeping?
It did now.
No, I
Oh.
can't get my phone to work. Did you get it?
I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so that was unanimous, clerk there, or the RTM, that was a unanimous vote.
Unanimous vote, yes. Thank you.
Okay, item 15, to consider and if appropriate, approve a request from the Assistant Finance Director for the following fiscal 2020 budget transfers for information technology. From wages and salaries, $721. Professional development, $428. From hardware, $834. Communications, $443. From other supplies, $1,196. From software, $8,070. Travel, $2,500. From membership and conferences, $231. To purchase services, $14,423. Representative Alphone?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is another housekeeping item. There was an unexpected increase for an annual software maintenance contract. This is an interdepartment transfer with funds coming from line item overages. This was approved unanimously in committee. I'd put that forward to the full RTM.
And Representative Flanagan, there's a motion on the floor to approve this transfer. Is there any discussion from the RTM? Is there any discussion from the public? Hearing none? Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? This item passes. Moving on to item 16, and to consider if appropriate, approve various requests from the Finance Director for the budget transfer. A, FEMA, from contingency, $150,000, to operating out, $150,000. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. First, I'd like to address, the FEMA portion of this. We heard this last Wednesday at Ways and Means. The FEMA fund is essentially a way of separating out particular disaster-related expenses that may be incurred by departments from their regular budgets. These expenses may be reimbursed up to 75% from FEMA for approved expenses if it's a official disaster, as Asaias was. So this is replenishing the FEMA fund for essentially our share of disaster response. Our committee approved this 5-0, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Representative Flanagan here. There's a motion on the floor here to approve this transfer. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM?
Mr.
Is there any
Moderator, this is Representative
discussion
Sullivan.
from members of the public?
Mr. Moderator, Representative
Representative Sullivan, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, to Representative Black. Is the fund, it's for reimbursement costs, but does the town regularly put money into this fund on an annual basis?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, to Representative Sullivan, no, we do it in response to
Okay.
specific contingency, specific disasters. I think there was about 100,000 left over from prior appropriations. We're never sure what the reimbursements will be. So, something like a big blizzard or something like that, we'll get it. I know the latest tornado that hit, some of our houses a lot, and some of our houses not at all, because they look at it on a countywide basis, even though we got whacked, may not be reimbursable from FEMA. But, so we may be on our own. I think we're starting a process to try to get approval, but it's kind of doubtful, or at least it's iffy. Let's put it that way. But no, we don't regularly put things in. We usually do it in response to specific storms.
Thank you.
Representative Flanagan, or any other discussion from members of the RTM? From the public?
Mr.
Hearing
Mod,
none, is there any no?
sorry to
Is there
interrupt, Arpin. Just to assist the clerk, I just want to make a notation that Representative Ingraham left after item number 14, so 9 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? Hearing none, this item passed. Moving on to item B, dispatchers from contingency, $83,586 to wages and salaries, $38,719 to retroactive wages, $44,493, and for accrued payroll expenses, $374. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Last Wednesday, Ways and Means looked at this, and we took it along item B, item C, item D, item E, and item F. We all rolled into one motion and approved it unanimously. These are contractually obligated obligations. The sick payout under contracts, mostly for retirement, and the other items are wage increases, which we are legally obligated to fund since we approved the contracts for these bargaining units. So at this point, I'd like to put in a motion, as our committee did, and ask for unanimous consent for approval of items 16B, C, D, E, and F.
Okay, Representative Black on item E. I just want to make a notation that there's a resolve that the RTM approves the transfer out of $1,380 to the sewer utility fund to fund salary changes pursuant to the collective bargaining agreement for the town hall union employees. This increase in the fiscal 2020 budget in the sewer utility from $4,535,637 to $4,537.17. So there's a motion on the floor to approve all these transfers. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM?
I gladly second that motion. Thank you, Representative Black.
Okay. Any other discussion from members of the RTM? Any discussions from members of the public? Hearing none, is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? Hearing none, item B, C, D, E, and F are passed. Moving on to item G, tax appeals and other legal. From contingency, $59,000. From tax appeals, $40,000 for a total of $99,000. To legal, $85,000. Expenses and claims, $14,000 for a total of $99,000. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, last Wednesday, Ways and Means addressed this item. There's a surplus in the tax appeals, And both in expenses and claims in the legal budget, there's a deficit. Most of that deficit is really accountable for the Crescent Bluff litigation is 82,000 of that deficit in legal. I know Representative Brockett had some questions as well and got some additional information from the finance director, but we did approve this in committee 5-0, and I put that in the form of a motion and ask for unanimous consent.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to approve this transfer. Any discussions from members of the RTM? Any discussion from members of the public? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? This item passes. Item G. Moving on to item H, municipal insurance from contingency 20,000 to insurance damage 15,000 to property insurance 5,000. Representative Black.
Thank you again, Mr. Moderator. And this is insurance damage is often the co-pays. The property insurance, our premiums were slightly higher than budgeted, so we need to fill a deficit there. This 5,000, of course, is a lot of money to most of us, but it's our total premiums were, I think, several $1 million. So it's a relatively small amount of money relative to the total premium. And our committee heard this and approved it unanimously. So I put that in the form of a motion and ask unanimous consent.
Motion on the floor to approve the municipal insurance transfer. Any discussion from members of the RTM? Any discussion from the public? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? This item carries. Municipal insurance. Item I, special detail. Please find below a resolution to increase the fiscal 2020 budget to cover the police special detail costs. Please note that these costs are ultimately offset through higher than budget revenues. Resolved that the Board of Finance recommends to the R.T.M. an increase in appropriations for the fiscal year 2020 general fund budget from $115,908,944 to $116,119,944. This increase will be funded through increased estimated revenues resulting from special detail receipts. Increase the amount will be from special wages of police, $211,000, and increased police special detail, $211,000. Representative Conklin. Representative Conklin?
I'd like to talk. I'm sorry I was muted. But thank you, Mr. Moderator. This $211,000 is payable to all of the officers that you see at all of our construction sites around Branford. The income and the requests were a lot greater than we had initially anticipated. But in addition, the contractors pay for the use of our cars and our officers. So there's an offset. This is and this is to balance out the 2020 fiscal year. We heard this last Thursday in Public Services, and the vote was 5-0 to approve, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Motion on the floor to Representative Flanagan. There's a motion on the floor to approve this transfer. Is there any discussion from the RTM? Is there any discussion from the public? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? The item for special detail passes. Moving on to item J, general buildings, GGB. From regular wages, $17,400. From overtime, $11,000. From purchase services, R&M, $3,000. And from oil, $27,000, for a total of $58,400 to utilities $58,400. Representative Conklin.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Excuse me, this is Town Clerk Arpin. I'm so, for a point of order, I would just like to make a note that Stepanek has arrived and it is 9:13 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Representative Conklin. There was a shortfall in the 2020 budget for utilities because GGB took over the electric bill for all of the community house. And they had enough in other line items in their budget to pay the $58,400, did not have to go into contingency. And just as in an addition, though, we're not closed out, this is not audited, but GGB should still have another 30-some thousand dollars to return to our undesignated fund balance once the year is closed out. And we saw this last Thursday in Public Services, and it was approved unanimously, 5-0, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Motion on the floor to approve this transfer. Any discussion from members of the R.T.M? Any discussion from the public? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? Okay, the item J passes. General Government Building, GGB passes. On to item K, Human Resources, from regular wages, $1,800 to overtime, $1,800. Representative Alphone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The tax office has gone through a lot of personnel changes in the last couple of years, and more recently has been down one full-time staff member. Time worked over a normal workday was needed to process payments, refund requests, and other administrative tasks. This is actually coming out of the HR budget because overtime for various town departments is budgeted under human resources. And to note, during the current fiscal year 20, a good portion of the overtime paid was applied to the tax office. This was approved unanimously in committee, and I'd put that forward to the full RTM.
Motion on the floor to approve this transfer. Any discussion from members of the RTM? Any discussion from the public? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? Item K, Human Resources transfer passes. Moving on to item L, Solid Waste, from regular wages, $31,305, to material handling, $31,305. Representative Conklin.
This is Representative Conklin. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. There is a surplus in regular wages for the year 2020, and that, again, it's to clean up 2020. And there's a shortfall in material handling, which is really the cost of our recycling. I had a letter sent from the chair of the Solid Waste Commission that explained that in years past, recycle was a revenue source, that it no longer is because there's no market for the commodity. So now we have to pay to have our recycle taken away, and that's why there was a shortfall in the material handling line item. I was also told that there would be at least 2 more invoices for the year 2020 that we'll have to reconcile. They were under dispute. They are no longer under dispute, but they didn't make it into this request. Public Service heard this last Thursday and voted unanimously 5-0 to approve, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Hey, Representative Flanagan here, a motion on the floor to approve this. Is there any discussion from the RTM?
Yeah, Representative Flanagan, this is Representative Sullivan.
Representative Sullivan, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Through you,
Representative Sullivan.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, to Representative Conklin. I'm wondering if you could give a little bit more detail on why there is a pretty significant surplus in the regular wages line item when we're so close to the end of the fiscal year. You're muted.
Representative Conklin.
This is Representative Conklin. Representative Sullivan, I did not look into that line item, and so therefore I don't have an answer for you.
This is Representative Sullivan. I'm just wondering if it's due to any sort of the vacant positions that we've had in some of the departments. So I was just hoping for some clarification on that.
Mr. Moderator?
Selectman Cosgrove, go ahead.
Yeah, I apologize. It was, you were speaking to the solid waste, 31,000, Representative Sullivan?
Correct.
Yes, there was a vacancy in that department, the transfer station supervisor, and that's the position we recently expanded to be the sustainability and compliance manager, which was we filled that position at the end of this year, at the end of the fiscal year.
Great, thank you.
Any other discussion from members of the RTM?
Yes, Representative, Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Brockett. I have a question for Chairman Conklin.
Representative Brockett, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and through you, Chairman Conklin, with respect to the 31,305, is that as a result of the disputed invoices and the contamination, or is that strictly for the cost of picking up the recycling? I know, and I am aware that there's more coming, but my understanding is that it is for the contamination because of the rate change between the contamination and the regular pickup. And now that we have a sustainability manager, that she's looking into that to help lower that. Is that a correct assessment of that?
This is Representative Conklin. Representative Brockett, that is correct. That is in the letter as well. That it's mostly single stream contamination that someone kind of just guesses as it goes down their conveyor belt. And the new person will work to get that reduced.
Thank you, Chairman Conklin. I appreciate that.
Any other discussion from members of the RTM? From members of the public? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? This item passes. Item M, legislative, from elected official salaries, $275 to elected official salaries, $275. Representative Alphone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The payroll processed for the elected official salary in July of 2019 was supposed to be charged back to June, but it was missed when calculating the accrued payroll. So we ended fiscal year 18-19 with a surplus in the account and a shortfall in fiscal 19-20. This is just another housekeeping item. It's a transfer in that department, and this was approved in committee unanimously. I'd put that forward to the full RTM.
Motion on the floor to approve this transfer. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM? From the public? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? This item passes and legislative passes. Item 17, any other business to come before the RTM?
Mr. Moderator?
Selectman Cosgrove, go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick, I would just like to let everybody know and invite them to, obviously the town of Branford was unable to hold a in-person 9/11 remembrance ceremony this year due to the pandemic. However, there was a pre-recorded remembrance ceremony, and I invite you to watch. It's going to air on BCTV starting at 8:30 a.m. September 11th, and it can also be viewed on Facebook at My BCTV. I just extend that to the RTM members as well as the public.
Representative Flanagan, thank you, Selectman Cosgrove. Any other business to come before the RTM?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, this is a representative.
Go ahead.
I would like to just make a statement here. Many of you probably already know that Ray Ingraham's son-in-law had a horrific accident about a week ago. It was actually a week ago tomorrow. He suffered a terrible accident on an ATV, required a 15-hour surgery on his head and his brain. He's in an induced coma. I have set up his name is Kyle Butler. He lives with his daughter. He lives with his wife, Lisa, who of course is Ray Ingraham's daughter. Ray Ingraham has been there for many, many, many people here in Branford. And I don't know if this is backwards or not, but I set up a GoFundMe site. If you go to GoFundMe, and I've never done a GoFundMe situation before, but it's called Branford for Kyle, number 4, Branford for Kyle at the GoFundMe.com site. Please consider making a small donation to help Kyle's family. He's got a wife and 3 kids, 9 years old. I think it's 8, 9, and 10. So I'd like to just, if anyone has any questions, you can email me and I can. Thank you.
Hey, is there any other business come before the RTM? Hearing none. Item 18, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? Representative Torelli,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
is there a second?
Representative
Motion on the floor
Sedber?
has been seconded. All those in favor? Just say aye.
Aye.
Claire was not muted that
We're
time.
adjourned. Thank you very much.
This is Town Clerk Arpin. It's 9:24 PM. Have a
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.